I was curled up on the corner of the leather sofa, my silk blouse catching the morning sun that spilled through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The apartment smelled faintly of roasted coffee beans, the aroma comforting, yet oddly grounding. My phone buzzed on the glass table, but it wasn't mine. It was my mother's. I had borrowed it for a simple reason, to check a text I thought she might have sent to confirm dinner plans. But curiosity, as it always does, had a way of twisting things. One swipe, one tap, and I stumbled across a folder I had never seen before. Hidden. Locked away. Family vacation, the label read. My heartbeat caught in my throat. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the screen. A small, irrational part of me screamed that I shouldn't look, that some things are better left untouched. But another part, the part of me that had always been slightly too curious, slightly too observant, pressed forward. Photos. Videos. Memories I wasn't supposed to see. There was laughter, sand stuck to sun-kissed skin, the glint of sunlight on waves, and my mother, smiling in a way that I hadn't remembered. My chest tightened. The realization that my life, my carefully curated, independent adult life, was about to collide with pieces of my past I had spent years ignoring hit me with a strange mixture of dread and wonder. I leaned back, trying to steady my breath, feeling the silky fabric of my blouse shift against my skin. How had I missed all this? And more importantly, why had it been hidden from me? After that day, I buried myself in my work like never before. The small gift my grandmother had pressed into my hands years ago, a worn leather notebook, its pages yellowed and fraying, became my lifeline. Every idea, every plan, every tiny victory was scribbled into it, a silent testament to the woman I was quietly becoming. I found a mentor in a woman named Vanessa Reed, a sharp, seasoned executive who had carved out her empire from scratch. Vanessa saw something in me, perhaps the same spark my grandmother once did, and she nurtured it. Late nights turned into early mornings, and I thrived in the chaos of creation, strategy, and relentless determination. The first months were brutal. I questioned myself constantly. Was I really cut out for this? Could I hold my own in boardrooms filled with men who underestimated me at every turn? My hands shook during presentations, my voice faltered on crucial calls, and yet, slowly, imperceptibly, I started winning small battles. A freelance contract here, a client who believed in my vision there. Each success added a brick to the foundation I was secretly building. I learned to navigate the delicate art of balance, keeping my family in the dark while posting modest, innocuous updates on social media. They saw a young woman getting by, unaware of the empire quietly taking shape. I reveled in this secret independence, savoring each moment when my accomplishments were mine alone. Vanessa pushed me harder with each passing month. She introduced me to networks, investors, and industry insiders. I stayed late at offices that smelled of polished wood and expensive coffee, learning not just the mechanics of business, but how to carry myself with authority and grace. The nights blurred into one another, a collage of determination, self-doubt, and small victories that no one outside that apartment would ever see. The turning point came when I landed my first major client, a company that had rejected countless others, convinced I was too inexperienced. I remember the adrenaline coursing through my veins as I walked into that negotiation, notebook clutched tightly, heart pounding, voice steady. By the time I left, the contract was signed, and I realized I had crossed a threshold. I was no longer a young woman making her way in the shadows. I was stepping into my own light, quietly unstoppable. And all the while, I kept the hidden folder in mind, the unspoken memories that had reminded me of where I came from. Each image, each laugh, each stolen moment of family joy became fuel. It reminded me that my success was not just personal, it was an assertion of who I could be when no one else's expectations defined me. I was no longer the girl who had waited for permission to exist fully. I was Samantha Hayes, architect of my own destiny, quietly amassing victories that no one, not even my family, could take away. The doorbell rang, sharp and deliberate, echoing through the polished floors of my apartment. My heart skipped a beat, not from nerves, but from anticipation. I knew who it was before I even opened the door. My mother, my father, and my younger brother, faces expectant, smiles polite but cautious, stepping into the apartment they imagined I barely inhabited. They had pictured a cramped studio, takeout boxes stacked in corners, a woman barely holding it together. Instead, they were met with an elegant, sun-drenched space, abstract paintings lining the walls, a polished oak desk neatly arranged with leather-bound notebooks, and shelves heavy with awards and framed accomplishments. The scent of vanilla and fresh coffee lingered, a subtle yet deliberate signature of the life I had meticulously curated. I greeted them with a calm smile, extending my hand to my mother first, feeling the weight of years of unspoken words hang between us. They stepped in, hesitant, eyes scanning the apartment, taking in everything at once. My father's brow furrowed, my brother's jaw tightened, my mother's eyes flickered, curiosity, guilt, disbelief all competing at once. I motioned for them to sit. Silence fell like a heavy curtain. I let them absorb it, letting the tension stretch and thrum. Finally, I spoke. "You came here expecting to find someone struggling," I said, voice steady, measured, and yet warm. "But that person doesn't exist anymore." I led them through my story, though I didn't need to embellish. The photos on the walls, the certificates, the contracts, and the carefully placed objects spoke for themselves. I told them about the late nights, the mentors who believed in me, the battles I had fought quietly while they assumed I was floundering. Then I revealed the numbers. The contracts I'd signed, the companies I'd helped grow, the revenue I managed. Their mouths opened and closed, words failing to form as their eyes tracked every piece of evidence in front of them. They had underestimated me, dismissed my ambition, and assumed my life would follow a predictable, safe path. They hadn't realized I had quietly rewritten the rules. My mother's lips trembled. "Samantha, we didn't know," she murmured. I held her gaze, my heart softening only slightly. "Now you do. And it's time to see me, not the version you wanted me to be, but the version I chose to become." My father cleared his throat, embarrassment and awe mingling. We always thought you'd need us." I shook my head, a small smile playing at my lips. I never needed permission to grow. I just needed the courage to start. Even my brother, usually quick with teasing, looked at me with new eyes, a mixture of respect and disbelief. They were seeing me for the first time, not the child who once lived in the shadow of expectations, but a woman who had quietly conquered her own world. For the first time in years, the hidden folder, the family vacations, the memories tucked away, the things I wasn't allowed to see, made sense. Those memories were never meant to hold me back. They were a silent reminder of what I had been fighting for: freedom, recognition, and a life I could claim for myself. And now, standing before them, I knew the balance had shifted. The game had changed. They had come expecting to see the past. Instead, they were confronting the present. And it was me. I leaned back in my chair, letting the calm I had cultivated over years settle around me like armor. The air was thick with unspoken questions, their eyes searching mine for answers, for permission, for the validation they had long assumed they held over me. But that power no longer belonged to them. It belonged to me. "I can help," I began, my voice steady, carrying both warmth and firmness. "But things have to change. For all of us." My mother's eyes widened, tentative. "Anything, Samantha?" I shook my head gently. "No, not anything. You can't just step into my life and expect everything to remain the same. You have to meet me halfway, and that means real change." I laid out my conditions clearly. 1. Honesty and openness. No more hidden messages, secrets, or folders. If we are going to rebuild our relationship, it must be grounded in truth. That includes both small lies and big omissions. 2. Pursuit of their own passions. My brother had long coasted on safe paths, avoiding risks. I told him he needed to find what mattered to him, not follow what had been expected of him. His journey was his own, and I would support it only if he genuinely committed. 3. Letting go of toxic patterns. My parents had a habit of overstepping boundaries, micromanaging, and projecting fears onto me. I would no longer accept that. Respecting each other's space and autonomy was non-negotiable. For active growth and reflection, this was the hardest condition. Each of them needed to confront their past mistakes and actively work on changing them. Therapy, introspection, or mentoring, whatever tools they chose, they had to commit to growth. I watched their faces carefully. Some of it stung. My mother's lips quivered. My father's jaw tightened. My brother's eyes flickered with hesitation. But I held their gaze, unwavering. Compassion didn't mean weakness. Love didn't erase accountability. "I'm not punishing you," I added softly. "I'm offering a chance to be better, to be present, and to truly understand the woman I've become. But I will not step back into old patterns. Not now. Not ever." The room was quiet, heavy with reflection. Slowly, I saw it. The shift in energy, the recognition that this was real. They were facing me not as the girl they thought they knew, but as the woman I had meticulously built from scratch. They had to meet me here on my terms, or risk losing the chance entirely. For the first time, I felt a profound sense of equilibrium. The hidden folder, once a source of shock and curiosity, now symbolized clarity. It reminded me that even when we are hidden from one another, when memories are tucked away, we can emerge stronger, setting the terms for our own lives. I smiled, letting my voice soften. We can rebuild, but it has to be different. Stronger. Real. And that starts today, with honesty and respect. And in that moment, I knew the game had changed. I had the upper hand, yes, but more importantly, I had the power to guide the people I loved toward their own truths, without sacrificing mine. Weeks passed, and the changes began subtly at first. My mother would call me just to share a thought, no hidden agenda or judgment lurking behind her words. My father, who had once hovered over every decision I made, started giving advice only when asked, offering support without imposing it. Even my brother, slowly, awkwardly, but with sincerity, began exploring his own ambitions, enrolling in classes he had long put off and genuinely asking for guidance rather than approval. I watched these transformations quietly, a mix of pride and relief swelling in my chest. It wasn't perfect, change rarely is, but it was real, and that mattered more than anything. The hidden folder, once a Pandora's box of curiosity and latent hurt, became a metaphor I carried with me. The past could no longer define me, but it could illuminate the path I had chosen. One evening, I sat alone in my apartment, the worn leather notebook from my grandmother open on my lap. Its pages were filled with my handwriting, a map of my journey from uncertainty to authority, from vulnerability to quiet power. I traced my fingers over the notebook, feeling the edges fray under my touch, and I realized how far I had come, and how far we all could still go if we chose honesty, effort, and courage. I thought back to that morning when I had stumbled across the hidden folder. The laughter, the sand, the sunlight, they were all echoes of the life I hadn't been allowed to see, but they had fueled my determination. Every photo had whispered a silent truth. Growth requires awareness, patience, and sometimes courage to confront what is hidden. I closed the notebook, letting a deep exhale release the tension I hadn't realized I'd been holding. I looked out the window at the city skyline, its lights twinkling like distant promises. I had built a life that was fully mine, and now, the people I loved were learning to meet me there, on my terms, without fear or expectation. And in that quiet moment, I understood the most important lesson of all. Strength is not measured by dominance or defiance alone, but by the grace with which we hold our power, the courage with which we forgive, and the clarity with which we define our boundaries. I smiled softly, whispering to myself, as if the words could carry across time and space. I am Samantha Hayes. I have claimed my life, and I will never hide it again.